have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Thomas Edison. The greatest barrier that causes many to falter lies not in a lack of talent, but in their haste to label every stumble as a failure. Conversely, a steadfast mind views the very same event through a profoundly different lens. It is not a dead end, but rather data, a lesson, fragments of precious insight guiding them ever closer to the ultimate answer. Life's odyssey is akin to navigating through a dense, enveloping fog. Each misstep does not needlessly prolong the journey, rather, it gradually narrows down the divergent, unsuitable paths, much like a patient artisan chiseling away excess stone to unveil the flawless sculpture hidden within. Each of our mistakes is a process of self-refinement, discarding incompatibilities to inch closer to the highest version of ourselves. The most terrifying fate is not trying and encountering a setback, but remaining paralyzed in stagnation out of the fear of being wrong. We often tend to appraise our own worth based on fleeting, immediate outcomes. A shattered plan, an unfavorable interview, or an unfinished project can effortlessly plunge us into a chasm of self-doubt regarding our capabilities. Yet, a person's true value is never measured by the number of times they fall, but is proven by how they rise after every ordeal. A tiny seed cannot transform into an ancient tree after just one gentle rain. It must endure scorching suns, battering winds, and moments of near withering before rooting deeply enough to soar toward the light. Human maturity is much the same. It is not forged from a succession of effortless victories, but tempered through persistent strides when the universe has yet to yield to one's desires. The fundamental divide between those who surrender and those who persevere lies in perspective. The quitter sees failure as undeniable proof of their own inadequacy. The achiever, however, views that very same failure as a testament that they have just absorbed a lesson the masses have never experienced. Instead of squandering energy on self-reproach, they choose to pose a constructive question. What has this taught me? That question is the very key that transmutes disappointment into wisdom, turning wounds into the raw material of profound understanding and forging resilience into an irreplaceable inner fortitude. Imagine you are completing a 10,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. Each misplaced piece does not destroy the grand picture. It simply indicates that the current position is incorrect. The more incorrect pieces you eliminate, the closer you draw to the perfect fit. Success operates on a similar principle. There is no universal shortcut for everyone, but there is always a wide open path for those patient enough to continue the search. Do not prematurely close the book of your life simply because of a few unfinished chapters. Each stumble is merely a door temporarily shutting, a gentle reminder that the key does not belong there. What matters is not the number of attempts you make, but whether you possess the courage to step forward just one more time. When you shift your perspective on unfulfilled endeavors, you are simultaneously reshaping your own destiny. Because sometimes, the boundary between an ordinary person and a history maker lies not in innate genius, but simply in the fact that they never define unsuccessful trials as failures. They call it the voyage to discovering the righteous path. It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. Howard Ruff. Those who anchor their faith solely in what is visible before their eyes often only begin to act when fate has already been sealed. Meanwhile, those with far-reaching vision silently prepare while opportunities or challenges remain, but invisible whispers. We often demand tangible proof before taking a leap, wanting to see success before exerting effort, needing certainty of victory before daring to begin, desiring to know the outcome before making a decision. Yet, life rarely operates on such a convenient, predictable track. A farmer does not wait for the harvest to sow seeds. A builder does not wait for the tempest to strike before fortifying the roof. An athlete does not wait for the day of the championship to step into the arena of training. All magnificent achievements are nurtured by silent, relentless efforts, unfolding long before the sweet fruits emerge. Noah's Ark stands as a powerful metaphor for the dreams, skills, and habits we meticulously construct day by day. There are days when you passionately amass knowledge, yet see no arena to wield it. There are months and years of silent devotion that remain inadequately recognized. There are even times when others deem you to be squandering your time on unreachable horizons. However, it is precisely within those tranquil silences, when it isn't raining, that the foundation of your future is most solidly forged. Greatness never spontaneously materializes in a fleeting moment. It is the crystallization of countless ordinary days spent in meticulous preparation. Tragically, countless individuals only deign to change when crisis is at their throat. They only begin to save when their finances have run dry, only care for their health when their bodies falter, only seek knowledge when their livelihood is threatened, and only yearn for peace when their souls are already shattered. That is no different from attempting to build a boat as the floodwaters surge. The cost of preparation is always infinitely smaller than the agonizing price of delay. Authentic faith resides not in lip service, but is evidenced by relentless action, even in the absence of any palpable signs of success. It is the capacity to keep sowing seeds on barren soil, to keep learning when unrecognized, to keep living kindly, even when nothing reciprocal is given, and to keep walking when the destination remains obscured beyond the horizon. A visionary does not allow themselves to be dictated by current circumstances. They are guided by the grand vista they believe they can forge. Life perpetually favors those who prepare long before opportunity knocks. An opportunity may spark and vanish in a heartbeat, yet readiness demands an arduous, lengthy process to cultivate. Therefore, if today you are silently perfecting yourself beneath a cloudless sky, please do not lose heart. Your present endeavors may not immediately yield sweet fruits, but they are sculpting a version of you resilient enough to embrace the future. Persist in building your life with faith, discipline, and vision, just as Noah constructed his ark under the blazing sun, so that when the tempest strikes or opportunity arrives, you will not be caught off guard. You will have been ready for a very long time. It's not whether you get knocked down, it's whether you get up. Vince Lombardi. The true mettle of a person is not defined in the fleeting moment they stand atop the pinnacle of glory, but is most profoundly revealed through how they choose to rise after every fall. Temporary disappointment easily deceives us into believing that a stumble is the end. When a plan crumbles, we doubt our own competence. When rejected, we feel utterly inadequate. When besieged by adversity, we easily conflate our present hardship with our lifelong destiny. But those are merely transient emotions, not objective truths. A ferocious gale may topple a young sapling, but if its roots remain anchored in the warm earth, it will stretch toward the sun once the storm has passed. Humanity is no different. Our vitality lies not in possessing a life unmarred by scars, but in our profound capacity to heal and rebound fiercely from our very wounds. Recall the first faltering steps of an infant. No one reprimands a child when it tumbles dozens of times while learning to find its balance. Those falls are an indispensable part of the journey to growth. Yet, as we mature, we treat ourselves with a harshness that borders on cruelty. A single failure is enough to make many abandon their dreams. A single word of judgment is enough to extinguish their inherent self-confidence. In truth, every time we rise from a fall, our mind is sharpened, our mettle is fortified, and our worldly wisdom is immensely enriched. Life's scars are not merely remnants of pain, but the proud testaments of a soul that dared to venture into the fray. The image of a gladiator in the arena is the most vivid embodiment of this law. People do not remember the number of times he was knocked to the canvas. They remember the moment he wiped away the blood, clenched his fists, and tenaciously fought on. Life is akin to a protracted, grueling bout. There will be rounds where you reign victorious, and rounds where you are momentarily subdued. But as long as you choose to stand, the fight is far from over. He who surrenders seals the tomb of his own future, while the persistent warrior always retains the power to turn the tide. The most precious reward after every fall is not instantaneous victory, but the birth of a vastly more resilient version of yourself. Tribulations enable us to understand ourselves profoundly, identifying our core values and mastering our emotions rather than being enslaved by them. Adversity hones the will, just as blazing fire tempers steel. Without immense pressure, a diamond remains nothing more than a chunk of coal buried deep within the earth. Without hardship, bravery remains a dormant potential that is never awakened. If today you find yourself utterly exhausted beneath the crushing weight of life, please do not view it as the final verdict of destiny. A single fall does not define the Odyssey. One failure cannot erase your intrinsic worth. The essence is whether you possess the valor to stand and march onward. With every rise, you not only continue penning your own epic narrative, but you also prove that while circumstances may slow your stride, they can absolutely never dictate who you are. The true might of humanity is not living a life devoid of failure, but the capability to always rise with a fiercer, unyielding faith after every grueling trial. Never leave that till tomorrow, which you can do today. Benjamin Franklin. Procrastination rarely stems purely from laziness. On a much deeper level, it is nourished by fear. We fear failure. Thus, we hesitate to begin. We fear judgment. Thus, we delay our actions. We agonize that the outcome may not meet our desires. Thus, we coddle ourselves with the illusion that tomorrow will present a more opportune moment. Yet, tomorrow is often nothing but a mirage designed to soothe the psyche. When tomorrow finally knocks, it merely masquerades as yet another tomorrow. And just like that, monumental ambitions are gradually buried beneath the suffocating dust of hesitation. Time flows like an oceanic current that never falters. Every passing second carries away a fragment of life that is forever unrecoverable. If wealth can be regained after it is lost, elapsed time is eternally relegated to the past. Therefore, every task accomplished today is not merely an item crossed off a list, but a steadfast brick laid upon the foundation of your future. Conversely, every moment of procrastination is a choice to leave that brick abandoned by the wayside, leaving the architecture of our dreams perpetually incomplete. The farmer cannot bypass the sowing season and still yearn for a bountiful harvest. A branch cannot pause its budding process and hope to spontaneously bear fruit one day. Every triumph in this world obeys the immutable law of timing. Grand turning points are rarely forged in a singular moment of brilliance, but through thousands of minuscule decisions executed resolutely at the exact moment they are needed. Whenever we accomplish a task within the day, our mind autonomously releases a surge of positive vitality. The profound sense of completion breeds self-assurance. Self-assurance nurtures motivation, and motivation relentlessly propels further action. Conversely, every shelved task silently morphs into an invisible boulder, weighing heavily upon the psyche, breeding lingering anxiety, distraction, and a crippling sense of helplessness. Action, therefore, does not merely alter tangible outcomes, but entirely restructures our internal mental landscape. Life is not molded by flawless intentions penned on paper, but by pragmatic actions executed upon the solid earth. No matter how brilliant an idea may be, if it remains confined within thought, it can never generate true value. A magnificent dream, uninitiated, remains nothing more than a beautiful illusion. Successful individuals do not possess more time than anyone else. They simply cherish every fleeting moment of the present, transforming today into the launching pad for every creative odyssey. If there is a book you have long yearned to read, turn the first page today. If there is a skill you wish to master, dedicate the first few minutes to practice right now. If there is love needing expression, an apology awaiting delivery, or a goal demanding a bold stride, please do not wait for circumstances to achieve perfection. For the most idyllic moment to act is not when the stars align, but when you decisively refuse to let procrastination dictate your destiny any longer. Every deed fulfilled today is an invaluable gift to your future self, and every footstep in the present is a bridge that shortens the chasm between the person you are today and the glorious version you so fiercely crave to become. What does not kill me makes me stronger. Friedrich Nietzsche. Adversity is not merely a cruel test inflicted by fate. It is the very crucible that tempers human fortitude. The measure of a person's stature is not dictated by the storms they have weathered, but by how they allow those violent tempests to mold who they are today. We inherently tend to shun agonizing experiences. We dread failure, fear rejection, cower at loss, and are terrified of variables beyond our absolute control. However, those very harrowing crossroads are the most unforgiving, yet masterful, of teachers. They compel us to gaze deeply into our souls, reshape our intellect, learn to master our chaotic emotions, and awaken reservoirs of latent power that, in tranquil days, we never even imagined we possessed. A blade of steel can never attain its razor edge and indestructible resolve without first passing through searing fire and freezing water. A diamond cannot radiate its brilliant luster without undergoing agonizing compression beneath the colossal pressure of the deep earth. The internal might of a human being is identical. It is not spawned in the lap of luxury, but crystallized from trials that seemingly breach the very boundaries of endurance. Observe the image of bamboo amidst a raging typhoon. It does not defy the gale's fury through rigid defiance, but elegantly bends with the torrential winds so that when the storm dissipates, it stands tall and unyielding. That is the ultimate symbol of authentic resilience. Strength does not equate to becoming numb to agony, devoid of terror, or incapable of shedding a tear. True strength is when, even as the heart still bleeds, the legs march resolutely onward into the fray. It is the courage to rise after a crushing fall, the faith daringly offered after shattering betrayals, and the solitary beacon of hope ignited in the abyss of the darkest nights. Every treacherous passage gifts us an invisible treasure. Post-failure, we reap invaluable wisdom. Post-loss, we learn to cherish the sanctity of what remains. After a fall, we profoundly grasp that perseverance outweighs fleeting perfection. These blood-bought lessons become the armor sustaining us through the thorny roads that lie ahead. Those who have never endured the tempest may possess the brash confidence of youth, but those who emerge from the hurricane harbor a profound serenity in their souls. And in the ultimate defining moments of life, that very serenity becomes the most unshakable anchor. Adversity does not organically render all men stronger. Facing the exact same catastrophe, some allow their agony to forge chains that imprison them in the past, whilst others transform that very torment into a launchpad to redefine their destiny. The discrepancy lies not in the nature of the ordeal, but in the attitude we actively elect to confront it. It is our chosen demeanor that dictates whether the trial will serve as an anchor, dragging us into the abyss, or a powerful thrust, propelling us toward the stars. If today you feel utterly drained beneath life's crushing waves, please remember that destiny may not be punishing you, but meticulously forging you. Every trial navigated renders the will more ironclad, the heart more magnanimous, and the vision infinitely more profound. One day, when you cast a glance back over the path tread, you will realize that the most harrowing epochs were the very stepping stones that spurred your monumental ascent. Because, in truth, authentic power does not sprout from a placid life untouched by tempests, but emerges when, after every storm, you remain fierce enough to stand firm, smile, and proudly and fiercely march forth. Even if you are on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. Will Rogers. In a world that revolves with relentless velocity, standing still is often merely a silent form of moving backward. We easily plummet into the seductive snare of our comfort zone. We allocate vast oceans of time to ponder, draft intricate plans, calculate every conceivable risk, and languish while waiting for a perfect moment. Yet, paradoxically, that perfection is but a mirage that will never manifest. Every second of hesitation, born of a quest for absolute security, is a moment we single-handedly strip away the opportunities birthed by the river of time. The terror of error forces many to freeze, yet it is their very paralysis that acts as a silent blade, severing their vibrant future. A galleon may have perfectly charted its maritime course, but if the sailor perpetually anchors in the safe harbor to endlessly study the map, it will never caress the vast ocean. Knowledge of the destination cannot substitute for a sail catching the gale. A map only truly acquires a soul when the helm begins to turn. Life is no different. Dreams can only be resurrected when bathed in relentless daily action, no matter how profoundly insignificant the initial step may appear. A river maintains its crystalline purity solely because it unceasingly churns forward. Once confined in stagnation, the water swiftly putrefies. The verdant branch continues its upward ascent because every day it silently draws lifeblood to reach toward the sun. To cease growth is to invite inevitable decay. Humanity is utterly bound by this very law of nature. We ourselves only truly live when we perpetually seek knowledge, endlessly reinvent our core, and face relentlessly forward. Movement does not merely yield sweet harvests. It is the vital voltage that keeps the soul vibrantly, youthful, and teeming with life. Mournfully, countless souls conflate sheer busyness with actual progress. Some spend entire days calculating, yet never plunge their hands into the labor. Some are consumed with endless preparation, yet have never taken a single stride. They wait to hoard enough experience before daring to try, whilst genuine experience is exclusively birthed from the brutal collisions of simply beginning. Triumph rarely bestows her smile upon the one who knows the most. She surrenders to those willing to plunge into action and flexibly pivot along the path. A crude, imperfect forward leap still bears 10,000 times the worth of a breathtakingly eloquent blueprint left to gather dust in a drawer. Every deed sown today is akin to a solitary seed entrusted to the deep earth. You may not instantly witness the vibrant green of the sprout, but silent, tectonic shifts are churning beneath the soil. Every page turned, every skill sharpened to a razor edge, every trial courageously conquered. These are the immovable bricks architecting your luminous future. In stark contrast, every day that slips through the fingers of hesitation merely elongates the abyss, separating you from your dreamed shores. Time halts for absolutely no one, and life has never bestowed laurels upon ambitions that remain prisoners of thought. Once the righteous path has been triangulated, do not remain complacent as a mere spectator. Continue the march, even if today's strides are agonizingly slow, minuscule, or trembling with doubt. No one ever conquered the ultimate summit merely by admiring the mountain from afar. No one ever altered their destiny armed solely with pleasant fantasies. The chasm of difference lies in the raw actions repeated endlessly, fueled by unyielding grit and an ironclad faith. When you refuse to cease your momentum, every step violently annihilates the distance to your objective, and that very odyssey will forge you into an infinitely mightier, more matured incarnation, an avatar entirely worthy of the exquisite fruits waiting at the road's end. To be prepared for war is one of the most effectual means of preserving peace. George Washington. We frequently scramble into action only when the shadow of peril is at our throat, tending to the flesh only when disease knocks, mastering financial warfare only when plunging into ruinous poverty, or seeking desperately to heal a bond only when it has fractured into a million jagged pieces. That is the helpless passivity of reacting to catastrophes already set in stone. Conversely, masters of distant vision perpetually carve out a proactive path. They marshal their forces while the sky is still flawless and bright. Such vigilance is not birthed from phantom fears, but is the sublime crystallization of defensive brilliance. Much like bearing an umbrella under a clear sky is not to summon the tempest, but born of the profound understanding that the heavens always harbor violent, unpredictable variables. While the river glides in silken peace, the villagers' toil to erect a levee may be mocked as a ludicrous squandering of labor. Yet, when the savage floods roar down, those very impenetrable earthen walls instantly become the razor-thin border between life and oblivion, shielding the village. A human life operates under this exact, unforgiving law. The individual who ceaselessly hones their intellect while the professional seas are calm will stand immovable amidst the violent tremors of the marketplace. He who fiercely maintains biological discipline while his vessel is mighty will erect an impenetrable aegis against the onslaught of disease. The soul that meticulously cultivates trust from the most microscopic gestures will fortify their bonds against catastrophic emotional typhoons. Meticulous preparation is also the ultimate gauge of self-respect and profound duty. A fire brigade does not simulate infernos daily out of a morbid desire to see the city burn. A soldier does not bleed into the training grounds during peacetime, fueled by a thirst for slaughter. They brutalize themselves in training because they comprehend that capability, forged before the apocalypse descends, is the sole weapon capable of protecting what is sacred when chaos strikes. Genuine power resides not in the vulgar display of force during conflict, but in the masterful orchestration of preparation that renders adversity impotent against us. This absolute law becomes exponentially more profound in the most agonizing war a human will ever face, the war against oneself. We must temper our iron will before disaster besieges us, etch discipline into our bones before temptation whispers, and architect our character before power or glory tests our core. A rigorously fortified soul will not easily shatter before life's tsunamis. An emancipated intellect will forever maintain its chilling composure against the treacherous, blind corners of destiny. Existence has never reserved its grace for cowards who surrender their fate to the whims of blind luck. It bestows empires upon those who plot and prepare in silence every single day. The tranquility of the present is no excuse for dangerous arrogance. It is the golden epoch to violently reinforce the bedrock of tomorrow. While the oblivious masses drown themselves in fleeting hedonism, the wise are silently hoarding wisdom, grinding their skills to a razor's edge and feeding the fires of their inner dominance, so that when the cataclysmic trials finally rain down, they have no need for panic. They have been braced for impact for an eternity. One does not prepare in order to ignite war, but to paralyze it and enforce peace, not to cower in trembling anxiety, but to forcefully dictate the terms of the game. When you architect defenses against the coming dark days, whilst the sky is still a brilliant azure, you not only secure your sovereign future, but erect an impregnable fortress of serenity for your mind. Sometimes, the absolute zenith of human mastery is not found in claiming a roaring victory from the jaws of catastrophe, but rather that, through ruthless preparation, they masterfully neutralized the catastrophe's ability to even threaten their raves ode. What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Action perpetually carries a gravity that obliterates mere syllables. When speech and deed fall violently out of rhythm, humanity will implicitly trust what the eyes witness over the whispers the ears absorb. We are effortlessly enchanted by exquisitely spun promises, hypnotic sermons of inspiration, and wildly passionate vows. Yet, an unbreakable faith is never constructed from the hollow acoustics of a voice. It is brutally tested through time by the ruthless consistency of one's actions. An individual may incessantly chant verses of devotion, but if they remain blissfully apathetic to your bleeding wounds, your soul will organically believe their icy indifference far more than the poetry spilling from their lips. One who proclaims their absolute reverence for time, yet chronically shatters their appointments, presents a behavior that acts as the ultimate, unforgiving mirror, reflecting their true worth. Deeds are the searing lens that exposes raw truth, whilst words are often nothing but a majestic tapestry draped over a hollow core. Envision an arrogant, towering tree loudly vowing to birth the most succulent fruit in the entire orchard. But as the seasons devour the years, if its branches remain barren, skeleton-like, refusing to yield a single blossom or fruit, who on earth would still kneel before that promise? In magnificent contrast, an ancient, colossal oak stands in total silence, yet its sprawling canopy wordlessly shelters legions of weary travelers. Humanity functions identically. A soul of genuine grace feels zero compulsion to mount a defense of their own kindness. A truly honorable commander does not waste breath, begging for validation of their integrity. It is the sheer gravity of how they navigate existence, how they treat their fellow man day in and day out, that serves as the most thunderous, unassailable declaration of who they truly are. Tragically, legions of phantoms are incinerating their vital energy to architect towering personas using nothing but breath and vocabulary, whilst entirely neglecting to forge their core essence through visceral action. They pontificate endlessly on grand dreams rather than spilling sweat to construct them. They sermonize on iron discipline whilst routinely surrendering to petty, decadent habits. They sing hymns, praising profound gratitude, yet are tragically oblivious to the very souls standing shoulder to shoulder with them. As the sands of time fall, the terrifying chasm between their lexicon and their reality violently expands, and that exact void will silently devour their reputation, the trust and the respect the world once offered them. Conversely, the titans who wield the most profound, world-altering influence are usually the most aggressively silent. They embrace the void and let their monumental results roar. A devoted mentor commands deep reverence not through speeches, but through an agonizingly quiet, daily sacrifice upon the podium. A sovereign leader is blindly trusted because they are always the first to plunge into the teeth of the hurricane. A father, a mother, earns the eternal adoration of their bloodline not merely through rigid lectures, but through the flawless, agonizingly maintained masterpiece of a life lived well. Action possesses a violently silent dialect, and it is the only tongue capable of violently penetrating to the deepest core of the human heart. Life is identical to a vast, blank tome, where every single physical act is a stroke of the quill writing our very own epic. Mortals will inevitably forget those fleeting, wind-carried oaths, but they will carve into their very bones the exact manner in which you treated them. They may lose the memory of your thundering, triumphant speeches, but they will forever be haunted by the warmth of your hand extending into their abyss to rip them from despair. When the dust finally settles, what remains are never those echoes that merely resonate and vanish into the void, but the profound, jagged scars and exquisite marks our actions have seared onto the lives of others. If you wish to plant the seeds of unbreakable loyalty, act, cease talking. If you aim to declare your supreme worth, step aside and allow your results to carve your name into history. And if you desperately desire your fleeting existence to bear luminous value, remember that every single physical motion you execute today is whispering to the cosmos exactly who you are. For a man's character is never weighed by the elaborate opulence of his promises, but by the relentless, brutal consistency of his noble acts, executed day after grueling day. When vocabulary and action violently merge into a singular entity, you do not merely forge a fearsome personal reputation. You erect an immortal empire of trust, raw authenticity, and reverence that will outlive time itself. Age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. Mark Twain. The ultimate barricade in human existence is rarely found in the numeric digit stamped on an identity card. It is forged entirely by the boundaries we use to define ourselves. When the soul still burns with ferocious ambition, the intellect remains ravenous for uncharted wisdom, and the heart still violently palpitates at the sheer majesty of life. age is instantly reduced to nothing more than soulless ciphers on a timeline. An infinite myriad of life's supposed barricades are, in brutal reality, hallucinations architected by our very own minds. There are those who, barely grazing the threshold of 30, to frantically convince themselves they are entirely too late to shift their empire's trajectory. There are those crossing the half-century mark who falsely comfort themselves with the lie that they lack the vitality to absorb entirely alien skills or to awaken a dormant, youthful phantom of a dream. Yet, out in the wild unknown exist titans in their 70s who are deeply intoxicated by the pages of a book, ravenous to conquer the globe, mastering foreign tongues, birthing new enterprises, or bleeding for their fellow man. The fundamental, tectonic difference lies not in the mere quantity of years they have occupied this rock, but entirely in the lens through which they measure their own terrifying potential. When the mind slams shut, ancient decay crashes down in a fraction of a second. When the intellect remains violently expansive, the vital sap of life appears to stretch into boundless infinity. A roaring river, though having battered through countless epochs of sun and tempest, maintains its pristine, icy freshness strictly because it never ceases its violent march toward the vast ocean. Conversely, a pathetic puddle, if left utterly motionless, will swiftly fester, putrefy, and evaporate into nothingness. Man is identical. The venom that truly renders us ancient is not found in the delicate ravines carved around our eyes, but entirely in the sudden paralysis of our own evolution. When raw curiosity is extinguished, when we hemorrhage the courage to mutate, when we arrogantly refuse to learn and recoil from the unknown, that is, the exact millisecond our soul rots away, long before the flesh even begins to wither. To declare this is absolutely not to launch an ignorant rebellion against the absolute biological laws of the vessel we inhabit. Health demands profound stewardship. Physical voltage may no longer violently surge as it did in our 20s, and every epoch of existence enforces its own strict physical perimeters. But precisely within those claustrophobic confines, our sovereign attitude remains the ultimate, omnipotent choice afforded to every human soul. A colossal, ancient oak may no longer shoot upward with the explosive velocity of a sapling, but its subterranean roots, plunging deep into the earth's core, combined with its sprawling, majestic canopy, offer a profound, chilling shade. It projects an immovable stability and an accumulated, sedimentary worth that a fragile sprout could never even comprehend. Aging operates under this exact paradigm. If youth commands the kinetic weaponry of sheer velocity and explosive power, the twilight years wield the devastating gravity of introspection, chilling composure, and unfathomably deep wisdom. In brutal reality, mortals do not hemorrhage their grand visions because the hands of the clock tick forward. They lose them because they willingly permit societal hallucinations regarding age to chain them to the earth. They construct their own invisible prison cells. I am far too old to embark. The hour is too late for a metamorphosis. Or, that battlefield belongs exclusively to the young. It is precisely these self-inflicted mental restraints that act as the maximum security penitentiary for human potential. When we blindly believe every vault is permanently sealed, we instinctively cease our hunt for the master key. Yet, when one ruthlessly preserves a ravenous, inquisitive spirit and a fanatical faith in their own expansion, every single chapter of life has the power to violently rip open portals to majestic, uncharted panoramas. Never, for a fraction of a second, allow numeric digits to become a pathetic excuse to surrender the obsessions that set your soul ablaze. Let every passing epoch not merely signify the accumulation of rotting time, but the explosive ascension of intellect, the profound deepening of the spirit, and the opulent enrichment of visceral, lived experience. A human being retains their ferocious youthfulness not because of the date etched on their birth record, but entirely because their spirit still possesses the audacity to hope, a ravenous hunger to explore, and the terrifying courage to start entirely from scratch. When the mind is perpetually aimed like a weapon toward the breaking dawn, time ceases to be a crushing burden and transforms into an intimate, loyal comrade, guiding us to exist with a slower, infinitely deeper, and more absolute intensity. The passage of time may violently carve its signatures into the superficial flesh, but it is the sheer, roaring spirit of existence that decrees a human being's eternal, invincible youth. If you want to test your memory, try to recall what you were worrying about 1 year ago today. E. Joseph Cossman. The vast majority of the agonizing torments that strip us of our sleep tonight will inevitably bleach into oblivion as the years march on, whilst the colossal gears of life continue their silent, unstoppable rotation forward. The human neurological architecture is fundamentally wired to prioritize the detection of lethal threats, a primal survival mechanism that dragged our ancestors through the genuine, savage terrors of the wild. However, within the cadence of the modern era, that exact same mechanism, tragically, violently exaggerates phantoms and risks that have not even drawn breath. We incinerate hundreds of hours, painting apocalyptic masterpieces of the worst possible outcomes, engaging in frantic dialogue with nebulous terrors and bleeding anxiety over shadows that may never even materialize in reality. Remarkably, when the storm finally passes, we are brutally struck by the realization that the vast majority of those apocalyptic horrors existed exclusively within the lush jungles of our own imagination, never once breaching the perimeter of the real world. Envision yourself standing at the base of a colossal mountain, utterly engulfed in fog. From that vantage point, the ascent appears treacherously lethal, pitch black, and utterly terrifying. But the moment you summon the audacity to march forward, the dense mist organically shatters and retreats with every footfall, and you suddenly realize that the lethal barricades you once dreaded were mere optical illusions conjured by distance and perspective. Life operates exactly in this manner. Time possesses a miraculous, terrifying power to radically shrink the very monuments that once induced total panic. The brutal examinations that once felt like anvils on your chest, the interrogations disguised as interviews that stole entire nights of sleep, or the venomous rejections that seemingly shattered the heart into a million shards. When viewed from the altitude of a year later, they are reduced to nothing but pathetic, fading ripples in the vast ocean of memory. Ripples we sometimes have to violently strain our minds to even recall. To declare this is entirely not to wage a war of complete denial against the tactical value of anxiety. There are visceral, real-world crises that demand to be annihilated through ruthless action, meticulous preparation, and unyielding responsibility. Yet, there exists a colossal, unbridgeable chasm between decisively conquering a problem and willingly locking oneself inside a pitch-black dungeon of perpetual dread. Brutal action is the explosive thrust propelling us into the frontier, while anxiety is a rusted chain securely shackling our ankles to the apocalyptic, hallucinatory assumptions of a fake future. Worrying is the exact equivalent of violently rocking in a chair. It demands immense kinetic energy, yet it guarantees you will arrive at absolutely nowhere. You can squander an entire day allowing a single problem to violently erode your sanity, but a single microscopic step of bold action wields 10,000 times the value of those hours spent drowning in paralysis. I challenge you to carve out one silent minute to cast a ruthless gaze back upon your own odyssey. Exactly 1 year ago, what was the insurmountable Leviathan you were utterly convinced you could never defeat? Perhaps it was the crushing gravity of professional warfare, a fractured bond that appeared completely beyond the realm of salvation, an avalanche of financial ruin, or a brutally complex decision that violently tormented your psyche for weeks on end. And look now, the vast majority of those Leviathans have retreated into the shadows of antiquity. Some battlefields were decisively secured, some crises organically dissolved into nothingness, light as a feather, and an ocean of those paralyzing terrors never once materialized in the apocalyptic fashion you had so meticulously dreaded. That is absolute, incontrovertible proof that time is not merely a master physician tending to our wounds, but a roaring testament that we are infinitely more formidable than our own pathetic self-assessments ever allowed us to believe. The ultimate meaning of existence is never gauged by the sheer frequency of our panic attacks, but by the breathtaking moments we summon the savagery to act and violently seize the throne of our own destiny. Every single rotation of the earth, squandered in paralyzing terror, is a day we willingly forfeit the sacred opportunity to exist with explosive totality in the profoundly precious present. While the intellect is frantically weaving intricate tapestries of a doomed tomorrow, the staggering, majestic realities of today are silently slipping through our fingers, lost to the void forever. Therefore, the apex of wisdom does not reside in a foolish crusade to utterly exterminate all worry, but entirely in the masterful discipline of forcing those fears into their rightful, subordinate place. Permit anxiety to serve merely as a primal alarm, demanding superior preparation, but never, under any circumstances, allow it to forge the iron shackles that enslave your soaring spirit. If something is currently dropping an anvil of dread onto your soul today, simply, chillingly ask yourself, will I even possess the memory of this fleeting terror 1 year from now? That terrifyingly simple question will not magically vaporize the war at hand, but it will gift you an expansive, eagle-eyed vision and a chillingly serene battle posture to confront the reality before you. The theater of life is perpetually violently shifting, the tactical landscape is always mutating, and you yourself are unceasingly evolving into a higher predator after every single hurricane. What was a cataclysmic, world-ending typhoon yesterday may very well be reduced to a gentle, insignificant ripple in the vast ocean of tomorrow's memory. Once you penetrate the absolute truth of that reality, you will cease bleeding vital energy over formless phantoms, reserving your absolute devotion, roaring passion, and sacred time to live with staggering depth, architecting an existence that is profoundly serene and monumentally meaningful.